The world's global temperature plummets by 100 degrees Celsius and the Earth enters into an ice age era. Over a staggering 85% of the world's population die frozen. And after weeks of freezing, the world experiences a shutdown of all its infrastructure overnight. The protagonist of this story, Han Feng, is the only one able to sit at home with water and electricity, enjoying a glass of premium wine by the boiler. Neighbors in the homeowner housing complex residents chat group began to complain. In this extreme cold, people are sure to freeze to death. And even if they don't freeze, they'll starve. But Han Feng has stockpiled enough supplies to last him 10 lifetimes before the apocalypse arrived. And this was all possible because Han Feng died and had been reborn 17 days before the apocalypse. At this moment, a reporter on the news warns everyone to stay inside as the temperature continued to drop with no signs of stopping. But everyone shouldn't give up hope because the government hasn't forgotten about them. As long as they unite and stand together, they will overcome this crisis. This news was cut off mid-speech as a plane freezes in mid-air and crashes right into the unfortunate reporter, killing him instantly. And the entire ordeal was broadcast on any television still working. Meanwhile, inside a building stocked with rations and almost frozen foods, someone with silent footsteps was creeping around with a bloody iron bat. The person was the tenant of the apartment, Han Feng. Suddenly, a female voice calls his name from outside his apartment. So as Han Feng peeps through the hole in his door, he was surprised to see his school friend and crush, Lee Hyona, a young blonde baddie with a 38D melons and crazy curves that could render any man into having salacious thoughts. And her current victim was Han Feng. Hyona was shivering in the cold, tears in her eyes, knocking on Han Feng's door. Han Feng, blushing profusely, immediately opens his door. It's already deadly cold, so as Han Feng asks what Hyona was doing at his place, he also tells her to come inside, reminding her that it was dangerous and freezing outside. However, upon entering midway, Hyona suddenly grabbed the door and kissed Han Feng on the mouth. Han Feng was in a daze, and before he could understand what was going on, Hyona started playing with her tongue, then continued to suck Han Feng dry with her mouth. This continued for quite a few minutes. However, as soon as the deed was done, a bewildered Han Feng, wiping his drool from his mouth, questioned what's gotten into Hyona. She kissed him the second he opened the door. Hyona, with a seductive tone, whispered that she realized Han Feng was the only one she loved all along, and that act just now was the declaration of her love. You're the only one I'm supposed to be with. And as the saying goes, it takes a near-death experience like this crisis to see a person's true colors, to see who they really are. Someone who would be there for you no matter what. Hyona said this in a hopeful and seductive voice, rendering Han Feng speechless at those words. He couldn't believe his goddess was finally noticing him as more than just a loser. He was so shocked that he just stood there, frozen on the spot and not responding. Seeing this, Hyona gently grabbed Han Feng's hand and placed it on her 38D bouncy melons, then whispered in Han Feng's ear, telling him that if he didn't believe her, he should feel her heartbeat. Also, she continued that she was willing to do anything. And I mean anything that Han Feng wanted. Anything? This sudden revelation shook Han Feng's world. His heart was beating faster than his brain could comprehend what was happening. Is this really happening, or is it all a dream? As Han Feng was lost in his thoughts, Hyona decided to make the first move herself. So with her hand seductively placed on Han Feng's ass, her leg was also placed in between his legs as well. Hyona then started to slowly rub Han Feng's hot iron rod, over and over again. At that moment, Han Feng started to vibrate like an old tractor's engine. His heart felt like it was about to explode at any given second. He finally replied that Hyona had no idea how much her words meant to him. And as he tried to continue, Hyona gently grabbed his face, whispering and insisting he needn't say anything. She knows and understands his true feelings for her. And now, Han Feng knows hers as well. She requested Han Feng to close his eyes because she had a gift for him. As soon as Han Feng did, someone grabbed the door, and with all the might the person could muster, he smashed Han Feng's head. Blood splattered everywhere. And as blood continued to gush out from Han Feng's head, Hyona and her real boyfriend checked out the supplies Han Feng had in his apartment. Meanwhile, Han Feng, lying on the deadly cold floor, started to go numb. He was unable to move his arms, his entire body, and slowly his vision became blurry. He couldn't believe this was the gift Hyona was referring to. I mean, how the fuck is this a gift? And to make matters even worse, Hyona and her boyfriend decided to get all nasty right in front of him. This was the reward Hyona was going to receive for her Oscar-worthy performance earlier. Her boyfriend said. Han Feng couldn't believe what he was seeing. To him, they were like devils. Han Feng swore that if there was a next life, He will never be a bootlicker again. Then, suddenly, something strange happened. Through the darkness, Han Feng saw a flicker of light ahead of him, and somehow he was being pulled towards it. As he got closer, the light began to shine brighter and brighter. Han Feng felt its warmth too. He extended his hand, reaching for it. He thought it was the path which will lead him to heaven. However, as soon as Han Feng touched the light, it turned red, and suddenly, Han Feng's entire soul started to burn. Then, his soul started shredding into pieces, his screams echoing the silent abyss. And finally, after what felt like an eternity, Han Feng woke up, covered in sweat and completely exhausted. The first thing Han Feng saw and immediately felt was the warm sunlight coming through the window. Huh? Where am I? Han Feng was in a state of confusion as he continued to stare outside through his apartment window, and just like that, 30 minutes passed by like a bullet. Han Feng stood up, went to his balcony, and once again, he continued to bask in the warmth of the sun. He never thought in a million years that he would ever feel this warmth again. Han Feng had checked the date. It was June 28th, and based on his memory from his previous life, the apocalypse onset was on July 15th, 17 days from now. And although he was supposed to be dead, for some mysterious reason, he came back in time, just enough time before the apocalypse. This also meant he'd been reborn. His desperate wish was granted in his final moments. But enough about that, he thought. There was something strange happening with Han Feng's body, specifically his hand. Ever since he woke up, his right hand was continuously glowing red, and he had no clue what it was or how to make it stop. According to Han Feng, it also didn't hurt or anything. It just felt a little bit warm, and as it doesn't seem to do anything, Han Feng thought he was imagining things at the beginning. But then, in the middle of his thoughts, a heavy sneeze came out of him. When he opened his eyes, his red, glowing hand had changed to green. Huh? What's going on? In addition, the green glow became bigger and bigger, freaking the shit out of him. Wasn't it troublesome enough that his right hand started glowing red? But now it was green. Seriously, what the actual fuck is going on? Han Feng became frustrated and confused with the beams of light shooting out of his hand. He wondered how science could justify his glowing color-changing right hand. Soon after, the green glow shrunk in size, and it seemed like Han Feng could change the intensity of the green glow with his will, something he couldn't do with the red glow. But after a few minutes of failing to snuff out his glowing right hand, another serious issue came up. He immediately sat on his sofa as his legs gave out. Han Feng started feeling like all his energy was leaving his body. He felt completely drained. Wait, is this because of the green light? Growing more and more frustrated, Han Feng shook his hand violently, trying to stop it from glowing. Damn it! What the hell is this thing? But suddenly his eyes widened when a thought came to his mind. Hang on a sec. What if I got a superpower? You know, like a cheat skill in manhwas that the protagonist of the story always seems to get. Well, no shit, my friend. With this newfound theory, Han Feng grabbed a kitchen knife, thinking if he held a weapon, some reaction might happen. But nothing happened. Oh, come on. Seriously, but wait. Something did happen as his stomach started to growl, making him feel like he would pass out any moment if he didn't eat something. Feeling defeated, he went to his fridge, and as he opened it to find something to eat, he realized that the entire fridge was empty. This was bad. If I don't eat something soon, I'm gonna pass out and probably die out of hunger. But at that very moment, Han Feng noticed a jar full of roasted soybeans. He remembered that it was a leftover snacks he had from before the apocalypse. And although it wasn't exactly a full meal, he was desperate. I mean, what else could he do? He decided to eat it first, and then go to the supermarket later. Han Feng slowly grabbed a soybean and tossed it into his mouth immediately after. A loud boom happened a second after. It was the soybean which had exploded in Han Feng's face, making the area all seem like a scene from a comic book. As the smoke cleared, there was fresh soybean plant in Han Feng's mouth. Confused, he pulled the mysterious plant out of his mouth and noticed it was a fresh plant of a soybean. Also, he wasn't feeling tired or drained anymore. And the green light was gone too. Did it have something to do with the soybeans? Now Han Feng was really confused. He plucked one soybean from the plant in his hand, and upon opening it, he was utterly stunned to see fresh soybeans inside. Ah, so this is my power. What an incredible discovery. I need to study it some more, but right now I have bigger fish to fry. I need to stock up on supplies before the world ends. Outside, the weather was very moderate as birds were chirping non-stop, and the buzzing crowd was evident to see. Soon all this will be ancient history, Han Feng thought. He was in the crowd, thinking about everything that had transpired. Okay, so let me get this straight. First, there was a red glow around my hand. Then it turned green. Then the green glow shrinks and grows, making my heartbeat faster and feel super tired. Then, the soybean I touched with my glowing green hand became a bean sprouts. What kind of power is this? After his recount, Han Feng was still confused and growing frustrated again. In the middle of his thoughts, an angelic voice called his name from behind. So as Han Feng stopped and turned back, well, it was none other than Miss 38D Melons, Lee Hyona. She was wearing a beautiful dress and looking absolutely gorgeous. Once again, with a seductive voice, she said, "What a coincidence to meet like this. It's like the heavens are trying to bring us closer." Heavens? Yeah, right? Han Feng looked like he'd seen a ghost. After the incident, it seems Han Feng was now seeing her under a different lens. Lee Hyona, the goddess of his dreams for 3 long years. Han Feng had done everything to make her happy, even though he knew he was a loser, a fallback guy for her. But Han Feng never in a million years thought that this two-faced bitch would end up killing him. He was furious. His whole body was trembling with uncontrolled rage. Realizing this, Han Feng calms himself. Now's not the time for revenge. Not yet. After all, revenge is a dish best served cold. He needed to secure supplies first. In the middle of his thoughts, Hyona called Han Feng's name numerous times, but Han Feng was lost in his own world, thinking. Hyona, pretending to be worried, asked if Han Feng was okay. Why is he spacing out? Han Feng, with a nervous smile, politely explained that Hyona was looking beautiful today, so her beauty made him space out. This compliment made Hyona blush, but right after that, a knowing smile crept on her lips, making her quite smug and also revealing who she really was. She continued her angelic act with a weird, seductive voice, offering that they go do some shopping together now that they've run into each other. But Han Feng just straight up declines and left, saying he couldn't go today. Hyona was speechless at what just happened. She couldn't believe Han Feng would be on the path of a bootlicker counterattack. How could this bootlicker reject my offer? Meanwhile, Han Feng was proud of himself. He saw through Hyona's intention to use him as her personal ATM. After a while, Han Feng finally reached his desired destination, Waldemar, the city's Walmart, and also the largest and most well-stocked supermarket in the East region. When the Ice Age hit, this place was cleaned out overnight, and nobody found out who was responsible. Han Feng had decided to stock up as much as he could before the apocalypse. With the aid of the internet, Han Feng searched for a survival guide for the ice apocalypse. He found a list of things he needed, which included food, winter clothes, medicines, and all the other necessary supplies and steps. But right now, the biggest problem was that Han Feng didn't have the money to stock up on all the supplies on the list. And although he had the ability to grow food, what good is it if he didn't have the food to grow in the first place? He was once again frustrated. Han Feng started cursing with any vile thing he could think of. But suddenly, a familiar notification sound prompted him to check his phone. And when he did, he was startled. It was a message about a personal loan. Since Han Feng's credit score was great, he was eligible for a loan. Seeing this, a great idea immediately came to mind. Han Feng began to install every app that give personal loans. He smirked, knowing that there were plenty of ways to get a loan, and he wouldn't have to pay it back after the apocalypse, as money would be nothing but a useless piece of paper. Meanwhile, on the streets, a can was kicked by someone in a not-so-gentle way. The person was no other than Hyona. She was absolutely furious with his bootlicker. Hyona was still stuck up on the fact that a loser like Han Feng ignored her. Han Feng was just one of her many simps, so how dare he denies her? A pathetic loser who didn't even have his own car. Hyona swore she would never play nice with Han Feng again. But at that moment, a car horn startled her. So when she turned her head to the side, the car also stopped beside her. As the SUV's window lowered, Hyona was surprised to see Han Feng inside. He even waved at her. Dumbfounded, Hyona couldn't believe her eyes. She questioned if the SUV belongs to Han Feng. Yeah, I just got it, Han Feng said with a smile. He then continued that his dad had been killing it in his business in the US, so he wired him some money a few hours ago. He also just dropped his dad off at the airport. Hyona was still processing all this. After realizing Han Feng was a great human wallet to have, Hyona's entire personality did a 180. She immediately got all emotional and sentimental, crying and apologizing, saying she was really sorry for asking Han Feng to go shopping with her that morning, when he was going to pick up his dad from the airport. Hyona then made a cute and sorrowful face as she wipes off her fake tears. She played the victim card, saying Han Feng was really cold towards her, that she thought maybe he was ditching her, his best friend. Silly girl. Han Feng's entire demeanor changed when he said this. He was more confident and seductive. He gently grabbed Hyona's waist, pulled her close, and while holding her chin delicately, he said, "Why would I ever ditch you? Hyona, you're the most important person in the world to me." Again, that mischievous, knowing smile crept on her lips once more, showing her true nature. Then, the Oscar-worthy performance was once more on display. Hyona pretended to be all shy, then cast her gaze on the ground and said that Han Feng was also very special to her. Hyona then proceeds to ask, why don't they go watch a movie and have dinner together at a high-end restaurant? Hyona lifts her head up and asks what Han Feng thought about her suggestion. However, to her surprise, Han Feng was already gone. Huh? Where did he go? The noise behind her made her turn back, and when she did, Han Feng was assembling all the supplies in the back of his SUV. He explained that he still had to carry all the stuff upstairs, so he can't today. He was obviously busy. Even though Hyona was furious hearing this, she politely asked, "Why did you buy so much stuff? What's inside the boxes?" Han Feng casually explains that they were nothing special, just some stuff he likes. That's all. Then, feigning excitement, Han Feng said he also got a special gift for Hyona, and once he's less busy, they will meet up. This made Hyona extremely happy, so as she turned to leave, she made mention that she was really looking forward to the gift. Hyona also said that she was heading home. Hearing this, Han Feng nonchalantly replied that she better do just that. With her back turned, Hyona reverted to her true self, pleased. She was quite satisfied with herself, thinking she'd nailed it and got a great wallet at her disposal. On the other hand, Han Feng stole a cold glance from behind him, thinking he couldn't let Hyona find out about his little stockpiling. It's his ticket to surviving the apocalypse, after all. Han Feng couldn't wait to turn Hyona's world into a living nightmare when the apocalypse hits. She and the guy that helped in killing him. Han Feng's expression turned sinister, like that of a grim reaper. He was actually starting to look forward to the apocalypse. The days rolled by and just like that, bam! July 15th, the day the apocalypse arrives. But before that there was heavy snow first. Then, the temperature eventually plummets to minus 20 degrees Celsius. Over the next month, the temperature will continue to drop gradually, reaching a new low of minus 70 degrees Celsius. By that time, the world will be encased in ice and snow, making it impossible to go outside. That's why Han Feng had to prepare before that very day. He needs to stock up on enough food supplies, but he couldn't let his neighbors suspect his sudden hoarding. So Han Feng had his packages sealed in hazardous boxes, and the sensitive supplies like medical supplies are moved by Han Feng at night when no one's around. So with those issues sorted, the next issue was electricity. After the apocalypse hits, the power grid will be extremely unstable. So Han Feng got a generator and enough fuel to keep it running for at least a year. Also, the heating system will stop when the apocalypse hit, so Han Feng modified his house for independent heating, and also reinforced his doors and windows while he was at it. He also dedicated an entire room for storing his supplies too. By the time he finished getting everything ready, it was already July 14th, and the beginning of the apocalypse was the very next day. Finally, it was time for the main event, and thus, discovering the mystery behind how his power works.